Okay, good morning, everyone. It's week 8. We have 2 more weeks apart from today. So we have one session next week, next Thursday, which is going to be about mainly about self-employment and entrepreneurship. And then the final week is going to be a review of what we have learned during the last 9 weeks, and then giving you some advice and some activities and or roadmap to do after the Olive course. But for today, as I already explained, we are going to be more focused on interview preparation. Okay, so if you remember, last week we talked about how to read and how to process and how to make sense of a job advert. And again, if you remember, I mentioned that the most important part of a job advert is the personal specification, where they outline and they list the personal experience, personal knowledge, personal skills, personal qualifications that the employer expects an employee or an applicant to have and to show. And again, let me just go back to the slides from last week, just as a quick reminder. And the main point is you need to show that you are the person that they want. Okay, so it's not about who you are, but it's about showing and presenting and explaining that you are the person that they want. So you need to follow the structure of the job advert and especially the personal specification part, and you need to address them one by one, explaining that how do you meet those requirements. And then the point is just to make it easy as possible for the employer to read through your application and realize that, yes, this is the person that I want. So the application letter, the statement letter needs to have some kind of a structure. And for that, it's better to follow the structure of the job advert. And then it needs to be relevant to what they want. If they are looking for someone with strong communication skills, you are wasting your time if you talk about time management. Or if they want someone with problem-solving experience, then it doesn't help you if you write about how you are a good team worker. So it's important to understand what they want and then showing that you are the person that fits the criteria of that job. But then, if you are successful, they are going to invite you to an interview. Before moving to our today's session, you should have already received the slides for last week. And there is a slide in that presentation where I added links for creating CV, writing cover letters, filling application forms, writing personal statements, preparing for interviews, and developing your LinkedIn profile. So if you click on each of these links, you're going to be redirected to a page with more in detail information and advice and examples of how to prepare yourself for each stage of the job finding journey. So make sure you make best use of these resources available to you. Now, if your application is successful, they are usually, so in 90% of cases or jobs, the first step is a written application. That could be online, that could be offline, that could be through email. And then if your application is successful, you are going to be invited to an interview. And usually, if they need one person, usually not always, if they need one person, and if they have enough applications, they are going to invite between 3 to 5 individuals to an interview. So for one job position, for one opportunity, it's usually 3, 4, or 5, not more than that. So they kind of filter applicants down to 3, 4, or 5, depending on the numbers that they have and the quality of applicants. And then they are going to invite them to an interview. So whenever you are going to an interview, you have around 30% chance of having that job or 40% but it's around 30%. And for that reason, and because it's a competition between 3-4 individuals, you need to be prepared. And the more prepared you are, the higher the chance of having that job offer. Interviews, we have 3 main types of interviews. So sometimes it's one-to-one. So you are entering a room and there is one person interviewing you. So one interviewee, one interviewer. But most of the times, in kind of more than 90% of the cases, it's a panel. So you enter a room and then there are 3, 2, or 4, usually 3 or 2, but there is a panel of 2 or panel of 3 individuals from the company, from that business, from that administration, are there to interview you. And those are the people usually, if you are going to a panel of 3, those individuals are, one is usually the person who is going to be your manager, your line manager, if you get the job. The other one is someone from HR of that company or that business. And then the third one usually could be like a top manager, like a CEO or a service manager of that business or that company. So usually 2 or 3, but one person is the person that you are going to work with directly if you get that job. And then based on the type, it could be one-to-one or panel, face-to-face. So they are going to invite you to their building and you need to go there. But sometimes it's online. It's similar to what we are doing now. It could be on a Skype, it could be a phone, or it could be a video call. But again, could be one-to-one or could be panel interviews. I'm just reading through the questions. Such kind of selection for interview, is it applicable for both in public and private? Yeah, so most of the times it doesn't matter whether it's public or private. So the interview is online or in person, and it's one-to-one or interviewing through a panel. So it doesn't matter whether it's private or public. And then they usually, when they send the invitation to the interview, they will let you know. So they send you a letter, an official letter inviting you to the interview. And in that letter, they will say whether it's in person or online. If it's online, they send you the link. If it's in person, they send you the address. And then they let you know who is going to be interview you. So they let you know how many people and who are those people. And that is the first step for preparation. So you need to read that invitation carefully, making sure that you are available in that day and in that time. If it's going to be online, you need to make sure that you are prepared. You have internet, you have laptop, you have headphones, microphones, cameras, everything ready. So you don't want to turn up to that interview with your laptop not working or with the quality of your voice not being good. And if you are going to be there in their building or wherever that interview is going to be held, you need to make sure that you are going to be there on time. So you need to search on Google where the place is, how to get there with public transport, with bus, with train, and you need to make sure that you are going to be there at least half an hour before the interview time, because you don't want to turn up to your interview late, because it shows that you are not a good time manager, okay, which is not good if you want them to hire you or to give you the job. So that's the first stage of preparation, where the interview is going to be, and making sure that you are going to be there on time and you are going to be there prepared. The next part is just having some more information about people that are going to interview you. And as I said, most of the time they send you some like a list. You are going to be interviewed, or during the interview day, Amir, your manager, someone else, the CEO, and then the head of HR Martin are going to be there. So then you are going to use those names in order to find some information about them. Because these days with internet, it's not that difficult to find information about people. So the second step in preparing for the interview is to just Googling the company. So if you're going to work in, I'm not sure, Manchester something company, and then you know that someone called Martin is going to interview from that company, you just Google name of the person and the company, and most of the time they have some sort of information online. So they may have a page on the company's webpage, or they may have a LinkedIn page, or they may have a social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or these kind of social presence. And through that, you can get to know those individuals. First of all, just recognizing their face. So that on the interview day, when you enter the room, you already know those faces, which makes things more comfortable for you. And then you have some information about them. It's like you already know them. You know the faces, you know names, which gives you more confidence. And then it gives you some information about who they are in the company and what they are interested in, basically. And then you can show that you already know them and you searched about them during the interview, which is very good. It's always a good thing to show to the panel or to the interviewer that you've already done some background search about them, which shows that you are interested, you are serious about the opportunity that you have. So that's the first step. Time, place, and people who are going to interview you, and having some more information and making sure that you are prepared on time. Then again, similar to sending your application and writing your personal statement or application letter, you need to have the same strategy for the interview. So making sure and understanding what the employer is looking for and how you meet their needs, giving evidence. So you need to write job description carefully. And again, I'm going to show you which parts of job description and which parts of personal specification are more important for interviews. And then you need to be prepared and to answer questions about the job advert, about the role and about yourself during that interview. And again, if you remember from last week, one good strategy to give a structure to your thoughts is following a star. So I'm going back to the skill set 2 weeks ago, and last week I showed you a list of skills that employers are looking for, a set of 9 skills. And last week, I showed you that every job advert, every job application, every job interview is about some of those skills. And it's always helpful if you can have a list of those skills with a scenario for each of them, showing that how you are good in each of those skills with a scenario which is written following the STAR format: situation, task, action, and rewards, or the results. So once you have all of them ready, then going to an interview, it doesn't matter what they are going to ask you about. You already have one scenario for each of them. If they ask you about your communication, you can use the communication scenario. If they ask you about time management, you use your time management scenario. If they ask you about problem solving or teamwork, then you can use those scenarios. So again, I keep repeating this every week. Have that list of skills and scenarios based on the STAR strategy ready. It's going to be super helpful, and it's going to save you time and increase your chance of having successful applications and interviews. The second point is about understanding your strengths and giving evidence. Again, going back to the point about scenarios. They ask you a question about, oh, let us know about the last time that you worked under pressure. It's not enough to say that I'm a good person working under pressure. They need some kind of evidence, because the question is, do you work good under pressure? If that was the question, you could say, yes, I work good under pressure. But the question is, let us know about the last time that you worked under pressure. So they want actual evidence. They want actual examples. So you should be prepared explaining that scenario with time, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a year ago, place when I was working in Sudan for this company, or when I was working in Iraq for this company, and I was the situation, I was the manager for this, something happened, and I worked well under pressure, and I did this, this, and this, and this to solve the issue and achieve the results that we wanted. So evidence that, to be honest, the main difference between a good interview and not so good interview is how good you are and how prepared you are in giving those actual evidence and in detail evidence that are relevant to the question. Next one, understanding the organization, culture, nature of the business, and then the competitors. Again, a background search that you need to do about company. Never write an application, never go to an interview without understanding what the company is about and what are the values and what are the principles, and then trying to make yourself linked and relevant and connected to the company. So always have some background information about the company in mind. And it's not enough to know them. You should actively show them that, yes, I understand. I did my search. I Googled you. So I know the company. I know last year you were very successful in this, or you are the best company in London for this. So you need to actively use the information that you have to show that you have done the search that they expect. So it's not enough to have that understanding and information. It's important to use that and express that in your answers. And then I'm going to show you the examples later. We already talked about this, the location, dress code, transport, and all the rest of it. So these are mainly about the logistics. So make sure that you know how to get to the place earlier than the interview time. How you are going to go there. If it's online, you have all the devices ready. You have a plan B. If your headphone doesn't work, make sure that at least you have something else prepared for the worst case scenarios. And then in terms of the dress code, try always to be formal, okay? So try to be, regardless of where, even if it's online, it's always good to be formal, at least having like a jacket, like a formal, it doesn't need to be expensive, but being clean and being formal, that can make a difference. Then, so you are there, you're in that interview place, and you've met the panel. Usually the interview starts with a quick introduction. So they introduce themselves to you. What are their roles? I'm Amir, I'm the CEO of the company. I'm someone, I'm the manager of services in the company. I'm the HR manager. So usually they introduce themselves, what their role in the company, and then they start questioning you. So they have usually a set of 4, 5, not more than that. And then the interview shouldn't take more than probably half an hour to 45 minutes, because there are other people waiting for the interview as well. So there are other applicants who want to enter and have their interview. So you don't have unlimited time. And it's not about keep talking and talking and talking. You should be as short and as to the point as possible when answering the questions, because they don't have 1 hour, 2 hours to sit and listen to you. You need to directly answer the questions that they ask. So basically, they ask probably 3 or 4 types of question. The first type, so usually after they introduce themselves, the first set of questions, the 1 or 2 questions, it's about you, okay? Which are called warm-up questions. So these are the questions to break the ice and for you to warm up and feel more comfortable, and then they enter into the next stage of asking questions about the role. So you almost always, the first question is about you, and that could be tell us about yourself, or why you have applied for the job, or give us a background about yourself, or please introduce yourself. Regardless of how they are going to ask that question, the point is they will give you some time, a couple of minutes, as short as possible, to introduce yourself in relation to the job. And this is important. So you start with introducing yourself about who you are, but the rest of the introduction and how you are going to introduce yourself should be relevant to the job. So if you've applied for an engineering job, so you need to show that who you are in relation to the position. So my name is Martin, I'm from Syria. I have a degree in engineering from this university, and I've worked in engineering for this many years, and I've been in Manchester for this many years, and I've worked in this and this and this company, and that's it. Okay, so whatever you say should be about you in relation to the job. There is no issue with giving a bit more information. If you want to talk about, oh, I'm married, I have 3 children, that's fine, but no more than that. You would like to use your time to give information which is relevant and which is helpful for the job that you applied for. So the first set, always warm-up questions. The second set of questions, and usually you have 2 or 3 questions here. These are about competencies, or these are about skills that they are looking for. And these are the questions, sorry, I'm going to, sorry for that. So these are the questions that directly probe into the skills that they want. And usually they start with, tell us about a time, or tell us about last time, or please explain, or please give an example of a situation when you made effective decisions, or when you solved an issue, or when you managed a team, or when you showed a strengths in communication skills. So they ask you questions about the skills that you need to have as part of that employability skills. Okay, and again, the question is not, is it are you good or not good in that? It's about, tell us about an example, about a time, about a situation, about an incident. And again, you should be prepared with some stories, some scenarios about that particular skill. And then here is the why preparation is important, because specifically they want to know about team contribution. If you don't have scenario about team contribution, and if you give a scenario which is not relevant and which is about team management, there is a difference between team management and team contribution, and they cannot see the answer that they want. So it's very important to give direct answer to the question that they ask you. The third type is about scenario questions or hypothetical questions. They give you a scenario saying that, okay, imagine, or what would you do if this situation happens to you? Okay, so imagine we are giving you the job, and it's next week, this will happen in your workplace. So next week, we have an order from a customer which is not which is not prepared, or which is not available to deliver on time. What you are going to do, which is like conflict resolution. So it's not about your past experience, unlike the competency-based questions. It's about what you are going to do in the future in those scenarios or hypothetical situations. You should be prepared for that. But these questions, again, are about competency, are about employability skills. Everything is within that employability skills framework. And then the last type of question, it's about challenging questions. Just to test your experience and your skills in managing situations where things are not going right or not going well. So for example, tell us about something that hasn't gone well. How did you handle this? Again, it's very much about your employability skills in solving issues, being self-managed, being having the ability to take the initiative and being creative, being innovative. So all of them at the end are about those 9 skills that employers are looking for, but they may ask them in 3 different ways. Some using competency questions, some scenarios or hypothetical, and some challenging situations. But at the end, it's about your employability skills, and you should be prepared to give direct answer relevant to the question. Okay, so these are the questions, and based on that, to be honest, throughout my career, probably in the last 10 years, I went to 7 or 8 interviews so far, and questions were the same. So it doesn't matter if you go for like entry-level job or mid-level job or top-level job, 90% of questions are same. And if you are prepared for them, it's easy. It's not that difficult to answer them. So if you prepare yourself once, then every time you go to an interview, you are already prepared. So if your first time preparation takes 2 days, your second time takes just 1 day, and then your third time or fourth time just going to take probably a couple of hours. So once you are preparing yourself for one interview, you're already preparing yourself for future interviews, because throughout your career in the next 20, 30, 25 years, you are going to be in many interviews for different type of jobs. So it's always good to spend some time, especially if this is your first time going to interview, to prepare yourself. Okay. Hi, Lily. Thanks for joining us. No problem at all. Thanks and welcome. Any questions so far before I move on to the next slide? So we already know how to prepare for the interview, for the day, for the location, for the people, for the company. You need to do some background search. And then on the day, when you turn up to the interview, it always starts with introduction. Then they give you some warm-up questions, then some competency questions, scenario questions, and challenging questions. And that's it. So no more than 4 or 5 questions, and probably no more than 45 minutes of time. It's not going to take forever. It's going to be as short and as precise as possible. And for that, it's important for you to say what you need to say within that short time. You don't have unlimited time. For each question, probably you have 3, 4, less than 5 minutes. So you need to know what you are going to say during that 5 minutes to give what they are looking for. Salah, go on.
Thank you, Dr. Amir. My question is regarding challenging questions. If I missed or misunderstood, my question is, then how honest or true we should be in replying this question? Should we really discuss if something gone wrong and we weren't able to manage it or handle it properly? Should we also discuss that, or no? We tell it those examples that finally we somehow handle it?
No, to be honest, first of all, thanks, Salah, for that question. So first of all, when you answer a question, the answer, the scenario, the example that you give It doesn't need to be like a hugely successful thing. Sometimes it could be even better, or it could be more showing more strengths and skills when you share an unsuccessful story, saying that and reflect on that, saying that, oh, 2 years ago, this thing happened, things didn't go well, we couldn't handle it, but then we reflected on that and we thought about what we couldn't handle it, and we learned from that experience. And then later, next week, next year, next month, we use those learnings and we prevented future challenges. So I wouldn't say no, just talk about all things positive. But if you talk about negatives, if you give an example of something which didn't go well, and you as part of that team or you personally couldn't handle it, it becomes very interesting, and it shows your understanding and your skills and your awareness if you say, oh, although it didn't go well and we couldn't handle it, but then we took some time, we had a team meeting, we reflected on that, we went into we looked into why we couldn't handle it, and we learned that it was because of this and this and this. And we learned from that scenario, and we use those learnings to prevent that situation happening again. So no, it doesn't need to be always positive, but you should show your understanding of and your learning of the situation. Does that make sense, Salah?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. And again, that was a good question from Salah. Like I said, don't think about always giving all singing, all dancing kind of answers. It doesn't need to be always successful about, oh, I achieved £10,000 in a day, or I made this, or I made that, or I was very successful. Sometimes some of these stories could be from very small scenarios. Something minor happened and you could manage it, but you need to show that you learned from that situation and you were successful in using those learnings into future scenarios and preventing things going bad, or improving things for the business, for your work as well. Can I answer based on the scale of the company, monthly salary paid for the position? For an interview question, for example, what you expect a monthly salary from the company? Well, most of the time, if I understood well, Mullah, do you mean you asking them about the salary? How much is their salary? Well, basically, when they send you in most of the job applications or job adverts, they write what the salary for that role is. So you already know, if you go back to the last week, the job adverts that I shared with you, especially here in the UK, most of the times, very early in the job advert, they say how much is the salary per year. So if it's 40K per year, it's £30,000 per year, £25,000 per year, or per hour. So for entry-level jobs, it's hourly paid. So you already know when you go to the interview, you already know how much is the salary for that role. But basically and generally, I do not suggest asking about money during the interview. Okay, so it doesn't give a good signal if you ask questions about, oh, how much is going to be, or are you going to increase my salary or not? And I'm going to talk about what kind of question you can ask during the interview. But money and things about money, or things about holidays, or things about sick pay and these kind of things, you usually don't ask about them during the interview. What you do is, after the interview, if they give you the job offer, because they may not give you the job offer, they may reject you. But if they give you the job offer, then there will be a time to negotiate the payment, the holidays, the sick pay, the insurance, or whatever. And that's the time. If you have any question, you need any information about the job itself and the benefits of the job, and then the salary of the job, that's the time to ask. If after having the job offer, most of the employers, they are prepared, or they will have a meeting with you saying that, okay, Mulat, or okay, Salah, or anyone else, we are happy with your interview and with your application, and we would like to give you this job. And then they give you that during that meeting, they give you time to ask any question that you may have. And then that's the place and time to ask about, about the salary. Is there any chance of increasing the salary, or how often do you increase the salary, or how are the other advantage? Are we going to have health insurance? Are we going to have, I'm not sure how many days of holiday we are going to have, and so on and so forth. But during the interview, no, just be prepared to answer their questions. And at the end of interview, almost every interview, they give you some time to ask your questions. Okay, so they would say, okay, that we are at the end of the interview. Do you have any question for us or not? And it's always good to be prepared to ask 1 or 2 questions. Okay, never say no. If you say, oh no, I don't have any question, it doesn't give a good signal. It shows that you are not, because you should have some questions about a job that you have applied for. Always be prepared to ask at least 1 or sometimes 2 questions. And those questions, these are the best examples of questions that you can ask at the end of the interview. Have 1 question about the job itself. So what would they like to see in terms of achievement after the first 6 months? So you can simply ask, for any interview, you can ask this. So what would you like the person in this role to achieve after 6 months? And that's it. And just pass the ball back to them, and they are going to explain you what you are going to do during the first 6 months of the job. So you should do this and this and this, and that's it. And then questions about opportunities for development, not about money, or not about the holiday or other financial monetary benefits, but just about the role, the development opportunities. What support, for example, a very good question to ask, what support do you offer in relation to professional development? What kind of training courses do you have? What kind of support do you have with personal development or with career development? Which shows that the main thing for you is the job, and it's the opportunity to develop yourself as a person, not money. Okay, these 2 questions, and then you can just have these 2 questions, and you can ask them for any type of interview, for any type of job. What would you expect from the person in the role in the first 6 months? Or what kind of opportunity or support do you have available in terms of career development? What kind of trainings do you have, or support do you have when it comes to career development? And with that, the interview is done. Okay, so pre-interview preparation, and then you go to the interview, you introduce yourself, 3, 4, 5 questions about competencies, skills, scenarios, challenges, and then time for you to ask 1 or 2 questions, and then that's it. They would say, oh, thank you for coming, and we will be in contact with you in the next couple of days. And if your interview is successful compared to other applicants, because you may have a very good interview and you are quite happy with your interview, but they may not offer you the job. And that's it. That's the reality of the job finding, because other people, other interviewees, they may be better than you, or they may have more experience than you, or they were more prepared than you. So never be disappointed of going to an interview and showing a good performance and not having the offer, because it's always about competition, and some people are sometimes more prepared than you, and usually it takes a couple of interviews. So most of the time you go to 1, 2, 3 interviews, and then to just as preparation, and just getting to know the interview process itself. And then from the second or third interviews, you are going to be much better and then because of that, you will have more chance of having a successful interview. But the main point is preparation. And if you remember from last week, we talked about how to use the job advert itself and the personal specification to write a good application letter or personal statement. And we can use the same document to predict the interview questions and to prepare yourself for those questions in advance, which I'm going to share with you in the next slide. But before that, Salah, please go on.
Thank you. My question was regarding the last questions from interviewee. Suppose if we have two questions, should we ask it at once, back to back, or no, first and then once give it the response and then ask another questions? And can we also ask follow-up questions on that or no? Thank you.
Well, I would say for your first question, I would say one by one. So go for the first question, because usually these questions are at the end of the interview, and they may not have, you may already have gone beyond the interview time, and they have some other meetings or some other people to interview. So ask the first question, and if there is still time, you can feel from the atmosphere if they still have time, and if it's appropriate to ask the second question or not. So sometimes they may give you very short answer, but sometimes they may explain more. And then at the end, if you see there is still time, because the point is not about the questions itself and how many questions you ask. The point is to show that I can ask question, okay? I'm not a shy person, I'm confident. And I can ask questions, I have some questions. So even one question can make it. So you don't need to ask 2 or 3. But if there is still time and you see that they are engaged and they are interested in more, you can go for the second one as well. And then just leave it there. Don't follow up, okay? Because again, the point is not what you question and what they answer. That's not important. The main thing is I can ask questions. That's all. That's it. Just ask questions. Even you don't need to listen to what they say. They just want to see, do you have the courage and the confidence and the preparation to ask any question or not? And whether that question itself is relevant or not. They want to see the type of question. And then the rest is not important. How many questions do you ask or what they are going to answer? That's something for later. Once you have your job offer, then you can ask as many follow-up questions as you want about whatever you want. But in this stage, the main point is, oh, Salah, is he confident enough or courageous enough or prepared enough to ask one question, and what is that question is going to be about? And that's it. That's the main purpose. And when you ask one good question, you already tick the box and you don't need to go any further. Does that make sense, Salah?
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Great. Murat, I come back to your question because I have a slide about the job center or the places that can help you at the end of the session. Okay, so before it's 10 minutes to 11, before I move to the next part, let's take 10 minutes break and we come back 11 o'clock for the second part of our session today. So it's 10 to 11, take 10 minutes of break and come back at 11. Okay, everyone, it's 11 o'clock and we start the second part of the session today on interview preparation. So in the first part, we've talked about how to basically prepare yourself and what are you going to be asked during a job interview. But part of the preparation is to be prepared for the questions. And if you know what are going to be the questions during that interview, it makes things much easier for you to prepare and have the scenarios ready and practice ahead of the interview. So basically, the main piece of the advert that can help you with your preparation is the personal specification part of the job advert. And if you remember from last week, we've already said that the most important part of the job advert is that section which gives information about what experiences, what knowledge, what kind of background or what qualifications they expect the employee to have, which gives you ideas about what to write in your application, but as well what to prepare yourself for the interview. So this is on my screen you can see a table which comes from a job advert. I think it's a job advert from a local council, basically. It goes back to 2013, but it doesn't matter. So most of the job adverts these days, not all of them, but most of them, they have a table similar to this. And in that table, the first column is about whether it's knowledge, its experience, its education, qualification, and other requirements. And if you remember, we talked about in writing your application letter, you need to follow the structure of the job advert. So you start your job advert by explaining your job-related skills, and then moving on to your experience, and then moving on to qualification, and moving on to other requirements. The second part is about essential job requirements. And again, if you remember from last week, these are the qualities, these are the characteristics, these are the points that you need to have in order to apply for the job. But as well, they have some desired requirements, which means if you have them, you are in a better position than others. But if you don't have them, you still can apply for that job and your application still could be successful. So these are not compulsory, these are desired. But the column to the left, those are essential, which means if you don't have any of them, or one of them, or two of them, it's very difficult to be shortlisted for the interview. But the main part for our today's session is the fourth column number 4, which says method of testing. And in that method of testing, the employer, they give you information about how they are going to test you for that particular category. Okay, so for the first one, as you see, for the job-related skills and knowledge, the method of testing is application form and interview. What does that mean? That means, so you need to write about this. So if you have any of those essentials or any of those desired in your application form, and you will have at least one or more questions about this section in your interview. This is the same for the second one. It says application form and interview. So for sure, you will have a question about your experience of working in a busy customer-based service role. Okay, so if you are going to an interview for this job, I can give you a guarantee that one question will be about, please let us know about your experience of working in a busy customer-based service role. That question could be in a different phrasing or different words, but 100% One question is about your experience of working in a busy customer-based role, service role. So working in a bank or working in a supermarket with customers. Why it's important? Because it gives you, once you know that you are going to be asked this question, then you will have your scenario ready. And the day before or 2 days before, you keep practicing that scenario, which saves you time instead of practicing a scenario for something else, which is not a busy customer-based service role. You spend your time practicing and preparing yourself for that scenario, which is relevant to the experience of working in a busy customer-based service role. The third one, which is about education and qualification, it says only application form, okay? So you need to write in your application form if you have NVQ level 2 in literacy and numeracy, but there is no question during the interview. So don't prepare yourself to talk about your level 2 NVQ, or they are not going to ask, oh, please let us know about your level 2 NVQ. And where did you get your level 2 from? No question about that. It's only, it needs to be written only in your application, and that's it. And then the third one is about past work history and interview. So again, one question about that one as well. I have another example here. So what about we don't have experience certificates with us while we have experience? So basically they don't need any. Let me I think lowering the hand. Yeah. So very good question. Basically, they don't until now, okay, they don't ask any kind of certificate. So there isn't, if you've noticed, even in the job application process, they don't say, oh, please send us a copy of your experience or a copy of your degree or a copy of your qualification. So it's only based on how you are going to present yourself. So if you don't have experience, then it would be difficult to explain it. But if you have experience and if you are prepared and you confidently explain it, then they don't ask for certificate. So don't be worried about certificate. There are some certificate, if they need them, they'll ask for those certificate after they give you the job offer. So up until the job offer, so for the application and for the interview, they hardly ask for any kind of paperwork. You only need just to say, I have this and this qualification, I have this and this background and experience and skills. Everything is about self-presentation. They don't ask you for any evidence. The only evidence is the way that you present yourself and the way that you are confidently talk about your past experiences. That's why preparation is important, because if you have 10 pages of evidence, but you are not prepared to explain them during the interview, or you don't know how to write about them in your application, those 10 pages of certificates are good for nothing. So that's why writing and talking and presenting are more important than piling up different paperworks and so on and so forth. So don't be worried about not having the evidence or paperworks. They don't need them. If you are successful and if they want to offer you the job, they may ask for a copy of your NVQ qualification or university qualification, and they always want you to send 1, 2, or 3 references, and that's it. So your referees, the people who give you reference letter, they can admit and they can certify that you have the skills, you have the experience and competencies required for that role. So don't be worried about papers, don't be worried about evidence, just be prepared to present them in writing in your application and verbally during your interview. So this one is another example of a job advert, and this table is the table for the personal specification table. Again, The first column is about the requirement or category of requirement, the qualification they need, the skills they need, the knowledge and the experience they need for the job. And then essential ones and desirable ones. For this role, they don't have any desirable. These are the essential ones. And you use this structure to write up your application. And then in the final column to the right, it talks about and gives you some information about the method of assessment. So the first one, in terms of qualification, you write about them in the application form, and you need some documentation, okay? Which means in your application form, you should start by saying that I have good general education, like GCSEs or A levels or BTECs or whatever level of education you have. You need to write about them, and you need to start your application. And then they need some kind of documents. As I said, once they finish, they ask you for, please send us, you said that you have GCSE, please send us a copy of your GCSE as well. If they need it, they write and they clearly ask for that document. But the second one, it says the method of assessment for the skills or application form. So you need to write about them in your application form. There will be questions about your skills in the interview. So it could be about the first one, communication. So please tell us last time that you communicated well. Or it could be about teamwork, or it could be about IT skills, admin skills. So one question about any of these bullet points under skills, which again gives you some ideas about what to prepare yourself for. So here, in these bullet points, we don't have anything about perhaps numeracy. So if there is nothing about numeracy, math, and working with numbers, there is not going to be a question about numeracy. But there is a bullet point about difficult situation. So there is a chance of a question about difficult situation. So you should have scenarios ready for them. And if something is not there, there is not going to be a question about it. And then application form, interview, test at interview. So during some interviews, it depends on the role. They have some kind of tests, and it could be an online test. It could be giving you a written test, but that's something again that you need to be prepared for. And then when they invite you for the interview, they give you some information about if there is a test, and if there is, what is that test about. So they may say, oh, on the day we start with a test, and that test is giving you a scenario and asking for please write your decision. If you are in this scenario, and then usually those tests are again about seeing your writing skills as well. Because that role, that job, it requires good writing skills, and they want to see whether you are good in writing letters or formal papers or not. The third one, the knowledge here. Again, they say application form and interview. So there is no test of knowledge, but there is no documentation for knowledge. The only thing is you need to talk about your knowledge in the application form, and being prepared to answer one question about knowledge of working with homeless people, or knowledge of good practice, or knowledge of safety and safeguarding. The third one, the last one, experience, it says interview, application form, and references. So another method of assessment. So you need to write about your experience in the application form. You need to be prepared for a question about working, experience of recruiting, training, supporting volunteers, or experience of working with people who are homeless. And then the third one is about having a reference. And as I said, they want you in most of the jobs, almost every kind of job application, once you finish the process and they would like to give you the offer, they want you to introduce 2 or 3 referees or references. And these are usually the people who know you professionally. So could be colleagues from your past job, or could be your previous manager, or could be someone who knows you as a professional person. Could be teachers from your school, could be teachers from the college or from the university, and so on and so forth. So again, in that reference letter, they want your referees to write about your experience. They don't want them to write that much about knowledge or skills or qualification. They want a reference letter which says you have the experience of these co-production, working in a strengths base, experience of recruiting, and working with people who are homeless or whatever. So again, the point is you need to read carefully and you need to understand how to provide evidence for each of them. For some, it's only application, for some documentation, for some interviews, for some tests, and for others, references. So knowing these different methods of assessment helps you to save your time and just give them what they want, not extra and not less. I'm going to go to the chat box. Let's start. We already talked about certificate. Don't be worried about certificate. They mainly ask for certificate which shows your qualification. If you say I have any university, college, or high school qualification, usually they ask for that, not beyond that. And then they ask for references. But what about if we don't have a reference? Well, it's better to have a reference because it's difficult to say, oh, there is no one who can, because if you worked in any place, or if you be trained or educated, there is a person who knows you. Okay. Sometimes you may not have access to your previous manager because they are in a different country. But the last thing is you have done some voluntary work somewhere. And if you don't have a reference, that's a good way of finding a reference for yourself. So if you work 2 weeks as a volunteer, then the person who works with you there can give you the reference. So it's about thinking of, one thing that, again, if you go back to the career plan, one thing that you need as part of your planning, you need a reference. So if you have it, then that's fine. If you don't have it, then you should plan about how to make someone, or how to find someone who could give me a reference. And there are different ways of finding that person. One, doing some few hours or weeks of voluntary work, and then the person there can give you. The other one, just going to any kind of course, when you are here, I think some of you already, I sent references for some of you. So your teachers, people who worked with you here or in other programs, they can give you that reference. So make sure that you have, and if you don't have, spend some time to create some links, go to places, do some works, do some trainings, offline, online, wherever, whenever, just for some people to know you and be able to give you the reference. Because if you don't have reference, it shows that you are not connected enough and you're not active enough as a person who is looking for a job. How we should answer the question about our weakest and strongest personality traits. But basically, like I said, I think earlier I answered to a question from Salah. It's not about having every human being, we have some strengths, we have some weaknesses, we have some success, we have some failures. It's mainly about showing that we are conscious of the point that we are good in this, but we are not so good in the other one. That's the first one. We understand, we are conscious of our strengths and weaknesses. The second part is we actively work on improving ourselves by learning. So you can say, oh, 5 years ago or 2 years ago, I wasn't that good, or I'm not that good in time management, but I'm conscious of that. And I've been trying to learn more about techniques that I can better manage my time. So showing that you actively try to improve your weaknesses. And then the third skill, which is very good and most employers, they like it, is about reflecting and thinking back and saying that, oh, and this is again a good way of responding to what is your weakness or the kind of the negative personality traits that you have. It's about reflecting on a weakness that you had in the past, saying that like in the past, I wasn't that good. However, I reflected, I learned, I made some efforts and I improved that. And these days, I'm much better in with regards to that particular weakness. So it's all about conscious, actively improving and reflecting and learning. If you can frame any kind of a strengths and weakness within that structure, then you are going to present it as a strengths, because yes, you are talking about your time management as a weakness, but at the same time, you are showing your consciousness, your reflection, and your ability to learn and improve as a strengths. So at the end, your answer is going to be more about your strengths than that particular weakness. I think I've already answered this question. How about we don't have reference? Well, if you are here in this session, you already have your reference. Don't be worried, okay? So any of the teachers that you work here, they can help you with your reference. But then if you don't have it, you need to think about how I can make that person, that connection, that link. So finding a voluntary work somewhere is kind of the easiest and the first way of addressing that. Salah, please.
Thank you, Amir. My question is regarding predicting questions. What factor we should really consider while predicting to enable us to best predict the questions is going to be asked?
Well, first of all, very good question. So questions are I think I shared a link with you last week about the most common interview questions.
Yes, we received that.
And when earlier I shared my experience of going to probably 7, 6, 8 interviews for different roles from entry to the kind of roles that I have at the moment. And I remember like 10 years ago going to an interview for like a restaurant kind of job. And then last year or 2 years ago going for like a university lecturer kind of job. Questions are the same, to be honest. So if you just Google on internet the most common interview questions, the Google will share with you like 20, 30, 40, and then you can put those questions against the job advert and see which questions are relevant to job advert. So probably you are going to filter them down to 10, 15 questions and just prepare yourself for them. The main thing is you need to be prepared to give relevant examples, because if you give good examples and if you have those scenarios, those impressive stories which can show different types of skills in one scenario in 2 minutes, that's it. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you go for that job and how high rank or low rank the job is. Most of the time, questions are similar. So there are some questions about the skills, competencies, and experiences. So just be prepared for those scenarios. And like I said, I'll go back to the point that I've been repeating every week. You have the skills set, so 9 skills, have 1 scenario for each. If you have those 9 scenarios, it's very difficult to fail any job interview, because every bullet point here in this screen, they somehow relate to one of those skill set. So if you have 9 scenarios, 9 short scenarios ready, and if you practice them 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, then you're already prepared. Whatever they ask, you have 1 scenario prepared for that. Yes, I worked under pressure, and this is the example. Yes, I worked within a team, and this is the example. It doesn't matter if you are going to an interview for a manager of a company or for a care worker in a care house. You are prepared to give those examples. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. So I answered Ali's question. What about if we don't have reference? We talked about that, how to looking for job if you don't have any experience, or how to find a job without any experience. So the main point is you need to look into the requirement, okay? And there are jobs where they don't need previous experience. There are many entry-level jobs. I think we had an example last week about working in as an admin worker, like doing like receptionist. So you need to find the level that is most appropriate for you to enter. For some of you, you have more experience, you can apply for higher level jobs. For some of you, if you don't have any experience, there are thousands of jobs where they don't need any experience. So if you apply for a teacher assistant role, okay, so let's say you would like to become a teacher, but you don't have experience of teaching. And if you want to apply for a teacher role, you need to have that experience. So you cannot apply. What you can do is go one step down and apply for a teaching assistant. And when you apply for teaching assistant, most of the time, they don't need any experience because that's entry level. People who apply are people without experience. You apply for teaching assistant, you stay in that role for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and now you have experience to apply for teaching. So always have these steps in mind. If you don't have the requirement for a step 3, go one step down to a step 2. If you don't have experience for that, go to one step down to a step 1. And there is always a step 1. There is always an entry level to any sector, to any job where they don't need any experience. And for many jobs, the training comes with that. For entry level jobs, usually they say you don't need to have experience. If you are going to be a receptionist in a GP surgery, you don't need to have experience. Training will be available. Training will be provided. So always think about the step. Where is the step that I can enter? And like I said, always have in mind, there are some entry-level first step jobs without experience, previous experience needed. Could we get your WhatsApp number to communicate faster for emergency as quick requirements from universities? Yeah, so I'll share that with you in the slides when I send the slides. So next time when you get the slides, you see my number on my email address as well. Okay, let's move further. Okay, so now we talked about pre-interview preparation and then what is going to happen during an interview. So there are some few last points that I would like to share with you. So practice, practice, and practice. Okay, especially if you go to an interview in your second language, practice is hugely important. So make sure that you practice. You spend a day or 2 or 3, however, how much time that you need to practice. Sit somewhere, ask questions, and answer that questions loudly. Okay, speak in English and answer. So don't just repeat them in your brain. Make sure that because it's in your second language, and you need, it's not just about having that content ready in your mind. You need to be able, and you need to practice to say them verbally as well. So always be prepared and always spend few hours to practice and practice and practice. Write your answers down and just repeat them verbally, not just in your mind. Practice answering your common interview questions. So have a list of interview questions similar to like a list of skills. Have answers ready, scenarios ready for each of them, and just repeat them. And if sometimes it's good even you record it and you keep listening to your recording, because then it helps you to improve your fluency as well. Because like I said, you don't have 10 minutes, 15 minutes for each question. You need to give everything they want in 2 or 3 minutes. And it's difficult when you speak in your second language. So, but if you practice, and if you write it down saying that, oh, this is what I should do, and then you practice to make it in 2 or 3 minutes. Otherwise, if you don't practice, it's probably going to take you 6 minutes to communicate that information. The next point is about writing down. it's a hugely helpful thing to do. Just write down your answers. Okay, these are two main problems that I've seen with people like us going to interviews. First of all, not writing them down, because the process of writing down, it helps you to remember it. Okay, if you write, you remember better. When you write, you make sure that you are not missing anything. Okay, because sometimes it's easy to miss sharing a very good experience that you had 2 years ago. But if you write it down, you are not going to miss any kind of information that you need to talk about. So that's the second part. So writing down is something that people usually they don't take it seriously, and then repeating that as if you are answering because people keep repeating that in mind, but repeating that in English and just getting used to talking about it. And then it helps you to manage the time, because sometimes you write a page and you would think that, oh, I'm going to say all of this, but it may take you like 10 minutes. Then when you write it down and when you start talking about it, you see that, oh, it's taking too long, and it helps you to shorten your answers as well, and it helps you to manage your time, because again, it's very important to show that you can manage time during the interview. If you keep talking and talking and talking, they can see that you are not good time manager. So you should show that, yes, I can manage answering your question in 2 minutes and 3 minutes, and my communication skills are good enough to explain whatever needed in just 2 or 3 minutes. Because and like I said, that environment of interview is a place that they see and they observe some of your skills like communication, time management, and so on, and working under pressure, because you are under pressure of mental pressure of the interview. So it's very good to show that, oh, I can handle mental pressure of being interviewed, and the only way of doing that is by record yourself and keep listening to yourself. It's very helpful. Ask friends or family to ask you questions and just answer. Just create that environment of interview for yourself. So these are the main advice that I would say helps you to improve your performance during interview. And again, I've worked with many people who with like 20 pages of qualifications with 10 years of experience, but they failed interviews because they were not prepared to talk about them. And like I said, I said this about application. Unfortunately, the first thing that employers see about you is that piece of paper. So it's very important to be able to write whatever they need in that piece of paper. And then the second part is about presenting yourself and answering questions during that interview. If you cannot do it for yourself, then it doesn't matter if you have doctorate degree from wherever. You need to be able to present and to talk and to discuss and to explain. Okay? If you don't do it, however experience you have, however qualifications that you have, it's not going to work, because they are not going to recruit you because you have a MSc degree from Oxford. Degrees coming last. So as I said until now, first application, second interview, everything being good. And if you are successful in your application and in your interview, then they ask you to show those paperworks. Then they ask you to show the evidence. Then they ask your references. But the first and second steps are about you writing about yourself and presenting about yourself. So keep that in mind and take it seriously and prepare writing, presenting, talking, and these are the ways that can help you to succeed the application process. Any question? Okay, so I'm not going.
I have a question.
Yeah, go on, please, Salah.
Yeah, it's not regarding the preparation for interview. It was about the interview during the interview itself, especially regarding showing your excitement about the positions in the company. My question is that how openly and explicitly we should communicate this or express this, that we are excited about this job or this company, to be part of the team or to work in this company. And I'm sure there's a line to not really look unprofessional at the same time, but how to really consider or draw the line to be at the same time impressing the other the interview panel, as well as to look professional. And that, if you can shed some light on this.
Yeah, of course. Again, excellent question. Well, there is no problem with, because I can remember in one of the slides last week, I shared with you the point about be enthusiastic and write with passion and enthusiasm when you write about a role, about a job, about a company. So it's always good to show that you are passionate and you are interested and excited about the opportunity. So, and there is no, it's always good showing your excitement, especially as you introduce yourself. It's always a good point to show that, oh, I'm so excited to be here and thanks for the opportunity. And it's so exciting to think about working for your company. There is no problem with kind of airing and talking about that excitement, but that is part of it. The second part is in practice showing your excitement and enthusiasm. So one very good way of showing that is by showing that, oh, I've done some search about your company. I have some information, and because if you are not excited about something, you don't go and spend time and collect information about the company. Oh, oh, you're a very famous company, 20, you won this prize and you show this performance and your ratings are all good. So part of the enthusiasm is showing that you were important enough for me and I was excited enough for the role and for your company to go spend some time and collect some information about your company. So always have that balance between, yes, it's good to show your excitement, especially during the introduction, showing that you are excited, you have interest, you would like to, this is not just because of money, you would like to, the company, and you appreciate working as part of that company, but that's not enough. It's saying that, oh, I like you, that's not enough. You should show your your love in practice by action. And that's by showing that, oh, I spend time to prepare myself and I spend time to find him. And this is why that I'm excited, because you are strong, you are powerful, you are well known, you are reputable, and so on. You are successful, and I would like to be part of your team. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much.
No.
Amir,
Go on, Ali.
yeah, could you please talk about body languages and how we can hide our fears? Some say body language is very important in interviews.
Yep.
Because when you sit sit in a appropriate position, it shows that you have anxiety, it shows lots of things. How we can control these kind of things?
Excellent question again, Ali. So, as I said, the environment of the interview and the interview day itself is an opportunity for the employer to see some of your skills. So, some of your skills are communicated through your application, some are going to be communicated through the answers, but they are going to observe, they are going to see some of those skills in practice during the day. It could be about your communication skills, how you are good in talking about yourself and understanding the questions. It could be about the time management and how good you are in managing time and not going too long or not giving too short answers. interviewees being in a place that you are not familiar with, and then having that mental pressure and mental stress, and how you can manage it. And one way of saying that whether you are performing good or not is through your body language. So the way that you are making eye contact with, whether you are making that eye contact with the person, and not just with one person, with other interviewees as well, or you're just staring at your shoes or looking up, or not, you're not focused on, you're not confident in making that eye contact. The other one is about how relaxed or how tense you are, whether you are using your hands to better express or explain yourself, or you are just showing some signs of stress, which again shows your confidence. And what I can say, the best thing is by just practice, because what makes you, if you look at the first point that I shared, practice makes perfect and reduces stress. Okay, because one issue is when people like us go to an interview, we have one more stressful thing, which is language. So at the same time, you need to think about the interviews, the questions, but there is one main thing in the mind. Oh, I need to tell it in English. If it was in your first language, you had one less stress. So what can reduce the stress is by practicing and making sure that you are prepared. And when you are prepared, and there is no, again, my personal experience, there is no better feeling of when they start asking you questions, when they get to the middle of the question, you already know that, oh, this is the question that I'm prepared for. And kind of naturally, it brings some kind of a smile. Oh, I know what to say. But if you're not prepared, then they can understand it. They can see the tension and the kind of a stress that you have because you are not prepared. What I would say, preparation, spend time, 2 days, 3 days, practice, talk loud, write, ask other friends to give you feedback, practice in front of mirror. And when you practice, then they ask question, you already know that I have the answer. And then just knowing that brings that feeling of being relaxed. But the other part of the body language is just, again, practicing body language. So try when you speak with others, with friends, with colleagues, in going to a coffee shop or any other place. Again, try to see the body language of other people, and then try to use your face, try to use your smile, try to use your eye contact, try to use your hands and your hand gesture because again, it's a very cultural thing. In some cultures, they use more facial impression, or they use more hands. But in some cultures, especially like in Middle Eastern countries, we don't have it. But you need just to learn it. You need to actively look at other people and just learn how to and when to use your body parts to communicate the point or communicate your the meanings. Salah?
Thank you, Amir. My question, another question was about the culture here in the UK, or especially the working environment culture, organizational culture, how it is, especially when you enter for interview and see the panel, how to interact with should the interview approach individuals, shake hands before and after interview, and how personally connect or contact with the panel members. How is the culture overall here? If you can give us a little bit more information.
Sure. Well, first of all, if you are not experienced in interviews, and if it's your first, second, third interview, always follow them instead of you taking the first step, okay? Because it's not their first experience of interviewing someone, and they know that you are already under some kind of pressure. You may not have the experience of interview. So it's always good, as you enter the room, you follow the interviewer. So most of the time, if it's about approaching you, they will approach you. They will stretch their hands, they shake their hand, they introduce themselves, they don't want you to be under that pressure. It's not about torturing you. It's about creating that environment for you to feel comfortable. So again, almost every employer, they understand the feelings of interviewees and the mental pressure. But I would say just follow them and give the lead to them. And most of them, they know their jobs. They already prepared, because I was in that interview panels a few times. So the same way that you prepare, those people do prepare as well. So 1 hour or a day before the interview, they sit together, they split the job between themselves. So they say, oh, you ask these 3 questions, I ask these 2 questions, you ask those 2 questions. Who goes first? Who introduces first? And what should we do when they enter? So they already know who is going to start, who is going to shake hand, who is going to introduce. So they have their own preparation already. And I would say the best thing is, as you enter, be just yourself. Naturally, you say hello to someone, greetings, and then for the rest, just follow them, because they have a scenario, they have a script, and they have their own preparation. If they approach, sometimes there is a distance between where they sit and where you are going to sit. Sometimes you are just face to face around the table. So just follow the environment and just let them to give you guidance. Oh, please sit there, or please come sit here. If they stretch hands, but don't take initiative, especially if you're not familiar with the interview process. Always trust them, because they have their own plan ready and prepared and practiced. Make sense?
Can we say in this regarding this question,
Yeah.
so we should keep our professionalism
Yeah,
and
because you're in a professional environment, so you should under any circumstances, you should be professional, and that's why it's better to follow them, because they are in a more senior stage than you, and they are more experienced than you, and in a professional setting, you always wait for advice from people who are more experienced and more senior than you. Yes, that's a good point, Ali.
yeah, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so I'm not going into the detail of me in 30 seconds, but the reason that I added some slides with some examples here is most of the time people, especially if you speak English as your second language, people find it difficult to say what they want to say within specific time frame. So if you are going to introduce yourself in your first language, it's easy to do it in 30 seconds, and you say everything about who you are, where you're born, what you studied, where you worked. You can concentrate all in just 30 seconds. But if you want to say the same thing in English, it takes you 5 minutes. And it's always a problem when you go to interviews, because they expect you to just manage time and say whatever you want to say within a specific time frame, which results in going beyond time or missing some of the information that you want to talk about and you want to present. A very good practice to solve that issue is this me in 30 seconds practice. If you Google it, or if you go on YouTube and YouTube it, there are hundreds of videos about me in 30 seconds. And it's a very good way of structuring what you want to say. So who you are, why they should hire you, present to someone else a balanced understanding of who you are, and encourage and trigger the interest of the listener. So that's the purpose of this me in 30-second practice. And it enables you, if you know the structure, so what you want to say, and then you write it down and you practice it, then you go to an interview and they ask you, the first question is, oh, please tell us about yourself. And because you are prepared and everything is structured in 30 seconds, the first impression is going to be very strong. Oh, he came here, and right at the first question, he was able just to explain everything in 30 seconds. So that's a way of not only managing time, but making a very good first impression as you start the interview. So I just share with you the structure, and then I leave it to you to do it for yourself. So this is the structure. This is the example. You can write your own me in 30 seconds, and then you need just to practice it. And when you practice it, it makes a very good first impression in your first question when you go to interview. So make sure that you have that me in 30 seconds ready for yourself based on the example, and like I said, tens of or hundreds of videos on YouTube. We are running short of time. I'm not going to go into the detail of LinkedIn because I don't want just to jump over it. Next week, I'm going to start with LinkedIn and how you can use LinkedIn, and then we continue with our content. But what I would like to share with you, I shared this one before, but we had a question about how community centers can help us or not. I shared here with you 3 main organizations helping out people from refugee backgrounds with job and employment needs. So the first one is REN, Refugee Employment Network. I'm going to bring it here to see. Yeah. So REN is a consortium of over probably 40, 50 organizations across the country supporting refugees with their job and employment needs. So if you go here on their first page, you can see a list of employers, a list of members. So if you go here, you see a list of all the members that they have across the country. All of these places, companies across the country, they support a refugee employment network. So like at the moment, 795 roles posted by members. So they are employers looking for recruiting people from refugee backgrounds. And then if you're a job seeker, you can go to the job seeker part and find more information about job search, guidance, events that they have across the country, and find a member in your town, in your city. So for instance, if you go to the events, you can see when they have events in places that you live, like in Leeds, Birmingham, and other parts of the country. You can go to those events and you can speak with them. But then you can become, and I suggest everyone to become a member of their newsletter. They share with you the latest opportunities in terms of employment, training, and so on and so forth. The next one is Breaking Barriers. Again, they are based in London, but they provide support for people in different towns and cities. And if you go for apply for support part, you can see they have it. They are in West Midlands, Birmingham and surrounding areas, Glasgow, Greater Manchester, Liverpool, and London. So if you're in those areas and you are in need of support with your employment, education, and skill building, they have excellent type of services and trainings available. And they have a newsletter as well. So become a newsletter. And then the last one is Renaisi. Again, they have specific programs for, especially if you're a professional from engineering, architecture, business services, they have a specific programs for you to retrain and start your work here. And they are active across different areas of the country, and they can provide support with language learning, CV and portfolio, professional network, professional bodies, job interviews, and 6 months of paid placement if you have the basic requirements. So these are the last things that I would like to share with you today. Make sure these are the 3 main ones, especially if you go to Refugee Employment Network, you can find a list of all organizations. As you can see, the list is here, members. All organizations supporting refugees with their employment, education, and training. And you can see which one is more suitable for you based on the kind of job, qualification, or based on the city or town that you live. And then you can reach out to them for support. So that's it for today. it's 5 minutes to 12. I need just to jump to the next session that I have. I'll see you next week. Next week, we will be talking about LinkedIn. We will be talking about self-employment entrepreneurship. And I'll send you the slides, the links, the videos. And if you have a question, feel free to send me email. I share with you my phone number as well. Thanks, everyone, and bye.